Which would you choose today? Which would a villager choose in 2022? We were 485 million in 1912 population with almost a non-existent healthcare infrastructure, poor country, developing country, or whatever you want, have money. But they have a paucity of time. Patients who will come to you, you will say, I have to go there, my daughter's marriage is coming up, I have a board meeting, I'm traveling, I'm busy. Can you admit me? We mentioned about communicable diseases. It was a clinical science, it's no longer is. It was very caregiver driven. The doctor and the nurse and the allied health person was everything for the patient. Investigations was on the backbench. Today it is changing. Today AI is saying, move over my doctor friend, I have arrived. That's the future that we are facing. It was a very conservative mindset where people would refuse good treatment because of social beliefs, superstitions, family types of medical practice, etc. And of course, we had an established mission network. How has it changed? In 2022, we are nearly 1.4 billion. The healthcare in India has improved tremendously, whether it's government, private, or any other. The middle class is swelling. They have a per capita income of 2,500 plus. Money, as I mentioned, is plenty. There's a shortage of time. And we have to understand that to adapt, to make our mission model contemporary. The inverted equation between time and money, there are good things about being informed, but not all. Regulatory systems have become very stringent in our country. And as we speak about all this, our mission network is struggling, is gasping for fresh air. Human resource problems, leadership, whatever. Things that are more contemporary. And as I mentioned yesterday, it is about how we keep our vision, mission, and mandates central, not allowing it to change until the vision itself doesn't seem relevant. It has happened in many organizations. But you allow the systems and the delivery mechanisms to change. Respond to the times and see how is it that we can still proclaim the gospel and bring compassionate care to those who are seeking in a new format, in a new package. And I'll give you several examples where this was done. Adaptation to change. We have leaders from the Bangalore Baptist Hospital. How 20, 30 years ago they sensed this and said that we have to change. And look at where the hospital is. It's a preferred destination for many people in the city of Bangalore, which is studded with excellent corporate platforms. I send all my colleagues who come to me for any referral to Baptist Hospital. I can tell you honestly, 100% of them have come and said, how come we did not know about this hospital? What is it that impressed them? Certainly not the passage, not the building, but the care that they received. From the word A to the word Z, they experienced something different. They also took in a lot of specialties. They looked forward. It's possible to have a bone marrow transplant in Baptist Hospital. Many people don't even know that. The power of networking, which has been made possible with information technology, the World Wide Web, and now with artificial intelligence. And this networking came into use when we networked 3 organizations to create a new model in the state of Nagaland, in the CIHR 10 years ago, and today it is a success story. There's a story about leadership, how good leadership can change things around. Odanchatram, still very semi-urban, but good leadership across, longitudinally across. Bisam Katak, where one of the speakers, Johnny Human, comes from, has changed from being this to this in terms of social adaptation, relevance to what the community needs. It all comes BH and CMC. CMC never took over the assets, but yes, held the right hand out and said, we will help you govern. Maybe it's time that CMC should now move back because they can fly with their own wings. And recently, the Kotagiri, small 50-bedded hospital tucked away in the hills of Kotagiri, is another success story because CMC agreed to partner. So let's think honestly. And how do we make this relevant in the contemporary settings? The first is to think about strategic networking. I presented some of these slides to the CMAI network, and I want to represent them to you. I won't go through this slide we mentioned, but just to split it up into CHAI, Catholic Health Association, CMAI, which is a Protestant group, EHA, and this is the spread of their work across India. Catholic Health, there are 3,500 healthcare institutions. CMAI has got 330. EHA has got 20 hospitals and a lot of community health projects, all focusing on North India and Northwest India, and to a large extent in the Northeast as well. And of course, there are some independent missions that are also part of this network. Quickly, I'll go through this is just to give you what I highlighted about CMAI. If you can see the numbers, they're all concentrated south of Nagpur, little less in central India and even less in Northeast, and almost nothing in the western sector. CHAI has got a more spread out representation with 70,000 IP beds, 23% of which is in rural, and everything else that this slide shows. EHA, I can see it is self-explanatory that they're all huddled in the northwest and north of India, and to some extent in the northeast as well. So why networking was not done in the past, it was not needed because there were problems with access. They were all independent missions to start with, and they worked pretty much as an island. There were few and far between. Across the country, the mission hospital network was had a much smaller footprint in terms of what they were able to do without, all the specialties that we talked about. And each of these hospitals was busy. There was no shortage of patients. You go to any of these hospitals still, Duncan Hospital, Herbertpur, where these hospitals are, I'm sure Bisam Katak and various other places, where there is no dearth of patients, there's dearth of manpower to handle them. So there was no impetus to network. It was running well. And of course, they were also funded wholly or partially by foreign. Presently, we have 180 hospitals. There's a funding crunch, severe funding crunch. And every day we read of one more organization that has dropped like one of the 9 pins. FCRA cancelled. So there are external pressures which will make funding extremely difficult. Manpower crunch, and that I think is an important issue. And all the talks that we have given, I can see the underlying theme of inspiring you, the young people, is by 363% in the last 10 years. The politics and regulations of the country are very constraining, very restraining, and we have to discern the significance of that. And of course, as I mentioned yesterday, care paradigms have also shifted significantly. Expertise has become very important, but we do have, and I will tell you why I think so. The patterns of giving, which means supporting or funding missions, have changed. The founding fathers were stewards of the mission. They brought in money as well. That has now changed to large-scale donating. Not now, this is in the order in which it changed. There were donors who would give generously, and we can see that happening even in the United States, where several foundations would actually fund big hospitals like Mayo Clinic and Cornell universities and things like that, that had also had an impact on India. That has now come down, and it has moved to supporting, which means they don't donate large amounts anymore because of government restrictions. In the US itself, there is an opposition to foundations funding faith-based organizations. We've had a bad experience when we applied for an ASHA grant, and in one particular year, it was turned down, saying that we are no longer going to support faith-based organizations. So funding is now very sparing, and it is support based on some kind of a connection that the supporter and the supported have. We are now in an age where, because of the post-COVID surge in economy or post-COVID new world financial order, there's a surge in the willingness to invest, quite different from donating. Venture capitalists, startup founders, entrepreneurs who are willing to put in millions based on one presentation, a device-based, oh, it will work wonders, here's 10 million. What happens to that, we do not know. But the pattern of giving has changed, and we must be aware of that. And of course, sharing. This is important. You know, when we share only when we have not enough for everyone to have one each. When you go to a church and take your songbooks, now of course it's all on the screen, but when do you share a songbook? It's when there are not enough to go around. There's a beauty in that sharing. So sharing has got a higher nobility, higher value, higher virtue, that even with our constraints of whatever, money, manpower, we are willing to hold your hand, come to you, or you come to us, and we'll share expertise of outreach. If all the mission hospitals just broaden their footprint across districts to however much they can, and if all mission hospitals do it, that map of India which I showed you will get colored. Is it possible? Yes, it's possible with a new approach to access and virtual health. Even the most hard critics of the faith will acknowledge that no, you bring value in terms of teaching, education, and healthcare. The need for impact to create more credibility. And finally, when we are able to do this, we will move from surviving to thriving. Surviving to exist, to become robust enough to be models. And that's the larger dream that we must work towards. What are the network domains? We can network in medical expertise like service training and research. I believe every mission hospital has got something to contribute. It may be expertise in Kala Azar in Bihar, or it might be neonatal care in South India. These are all actually columns of excellence which we are just allowing them to slip through our fingers without understanding that we can harness the power of this network for advocacy. There are some hospitals that seem to manage their legal cases very well. Some are struggling. Why not get that expertise onto you and say, boss, help us to solve this problem, and I'm sure there will be willingness. There are lots of hospitals that are well designed internally, externally, they're refurbishing. There's someone there who's got a civil architectural mind. Harness the deficit, and their expertise must be harnessed towards mission